Another Ranger adventure. This time I'm going to change the rear main seal on the engine and the front seal on the transmission and the back seal on the transmission. All the seals I can get to. You see that oil spot, that cardboard was under the bell housing, you know, and that's where it drips a couple days. So it's definitely got a pretty good leaker there. She's not really jacked up even, but I shake it. I'm not taking the wheels off, so it's not going to hurt me bad if it falls, but I don't see how it can fall. Got around 4 jack stands, and the front wheels are still on the ground. If I have to raise it more, I will. I'll try it right there. First thing I'm going to do is take the hydraulic clutch line loose. I started to do this job once before, but I couldn't get that line loose. I got the little white nylon sleeve pushed in, but I couldn't get the line loose. But then when I took it down off the jack stands and got in it and pushed in the clutch, then the line blew out. So I should be able to get it this time. But that's the first thing I'm going to do. And then I'm going to take the drive shaft loose, and then there's a backup switch. I have to disconnect the wire and then take out the speedometer cable. And then I'm going to brush the bolts on that crossmember that you have to unbolt and brush the threads and put some penetrant on it. Right now that'll be soaking for when I get to that part. And I got this guy right here. Yeah, to help me lower the transmission. Takes a 1/2-inch ratchet here on the end and strap her down and see if I can lower it enough to roll it out of there. And out here where I can work on it, it's pretty greasy. I'll probably push it out in the driveway and then get my pressure washer wherever it is and give her a good hosing, you know. I got the hydraulic line loose for the clutch throwout bearing. I put a little bag over it and that wire tied it out of the way. The trick is you gotta slide this white nylon sleeve in, and there's supposed to be some like fingers in there or something that it'll push them out of the way, and then the thing will pop out. It's not easy to come out. And what happened last time was, like I was mentioning, it was I had the sleeve pushed in, and I decided that I had to stop and think about it, and took my truck off the jack stands and got in and pushed the clutch, and it popped out. But I didn't do that this time. I had it pushed in. I went in and pushed the clutch a few times. It didn't pop out. What I did was I propped a board against the clutch to keep pressure on it and got down here and just kept working a screwdriver around. Finally, it popped out. It's not easy sometimes. And then I got I don't know if you can see it or not, but I got a little light here. Took the speedometer cable out and the wire for the backup switch. I got it tucked away here. And the shifter's easy to come out. You don't have to take the shift knob or anything off. You just slide the boot up out of the way like I did here. And then you take a 17mm wrench and take this nut off. And should come off easy, everything nice and greasy, you know. Then you put it on the other side. You guys probably already know this little trick, but just in case. And then you use the nut becomes a puller for this tapered bolt that keeps everything tight. So there, whoops, here she comes shooting out. Then your shifter just comes off, and there you have it. That's all you got to do for your shifter. So I bolted the drive shaft, and it takes a 12mm wrench or socket, and it has to be 12-point. As you can see, it's got the 12-point bolts. I left it plugged into the transmission so it's not getting oil all over the place. So I'm going to work on getting the bolts out around the transmission, to remove the starter. I already disconnected the battery. Then I'll have a new transmission mount I'll put in when I have to remove this cross member. And then before I do that, I'll probably strap my transmission jack to it, support it. Not sure how I'm going to get to those top bolts on the transmission, but maybe if I lower it, make them easier to get to. Looks like can't really get to it from the top, from under the hood, so that's my plan. Here's my progress so far. I took the bolts out all the way around that side except for the top one, which is going to be a little bit hard. I think normally they let the transmission down and use a bunch of extensions or something, but tilt it, you know. But on this side, there's two left, and they're being blocked by the exhaust pipe. So, you know, those bolts are old and rusty going to the manifold. So I worked them back and forth for the longest time and kept penetrating on them, and finally got them out. I can't really get it down unless I take this cross member loose. So my plan is to go ahead and set up that transmission jack and take the cross member out. But I couldn't get this bolt out. And I tried beating on it for like an hour, you know, with this piece of brass and a hammer. That didn't do any good. I got one side loose. Like I said, I had to put a cutoff wheel on my grinder, and I cut those bolts on both sides. So that's one. And I got my transmission jack under there. So I let it down. I still can't get the exhaust pipe out, but I don't think I need to. I was able to get it out of the way so I could reach that. You can see the empty bolt hole up there, but if you look way up top, if I can do it without having the light in the way, you can see there's the last two bolts are on the very top. Let's see if I can get a better shot. Yeah, maybe you can see them. And those I don't think I can get a wrench on. So what I've got planned to see if it works is I got every extension in my toolbox. Trying to get something long enough I can reach up there. Now I got to cut the bolts on the other side to get that cross member all the way out. And then work on getting the rubber out of that thing. I don't know if I can burn it out or just drive it out, but got to clean up the ends to get that new piece in there when it arrives. So I ended up cutting both bolts to get that sucker out, and lo and behold, there's the transmission is out. And, you know, a lot of people, I saw one thing on the Ranger forums where they were asking how much this thing weighed, and they were saying like 300 pounds and all that. I picked it up and put it on that jack stand myself. Doesn't weigh much over 100 pounds probably, if that. Got a little mess there. My truck's not high enough for it to roll out of there on the transmission jack. So I had to, I rolled it sideways. I rolled it off, and then oil come pouring out of the speedometer, wherever that is. I stuffed a rag in it. Oh yeah, right here. I stuffed a paper towel in there. It's wasn't too bad. I mean, that long extension thing I got these two top bolts, but man, they were tight. I probably had like a quarter turn of twist in all those before it finally popped loose, and when it did, then that ratchet I've had all my life, and that's the first time that it reversed direction when a bolt broke loose, and it did it on both of them. So, you know, it's been a, it never does that, but it did this time. Yeah, you know, I need to get it back in there. Got to get it past the frame. Yes, it'll clear everything else but the frame rails, so I guess I got to put my truck up a little bit higher, because I hate to take it off the jack and slide it under there and then put it. It's going to be hard to get back up on the jack. The jack's a good thing, you know. I had to. It seemed kind of stuck in the clutch a little bit. I actually had a ratchet strap tied to the back of it and pulling on it, and it finally come out of there. I had to put a jack under the engine too, because it. And I haven't even taken a look because I just got it out. Yeah, I gotta take. That'll be another day. The clutch and the trailer bearing and everything works so good. I'm not going to replace them. If it turns out that the clutch goes in a short while, then I probably should replace it. But I think everything is very good. I got her pressure washed. I made a mess, but yeah, she's a lot better. A couple little spots I could just get with a rag, but yeah, that's a lot of grease come off of that boy right there. And yeah, I had to watch out. I had a rag stuffed in there for my throwout bearing, but must have come out. Should have put plastic around it. And my pressure washer I got off Marketplace for $70. Just had to replace the pump. Got one on Amazon for like $60, and that's. Here she is after pressure washing. Yeah, day 2. Get rid of I decided I'm going to replace this guy too, because when I rolled it over on the side, transmission oil was just pouring out of it. Looks like there's something missing, probably part of a seal or something. So I ordered one. It'll probably be here like Tuesday. Today's Sunday. So today I'm going to replace the tail shaft seal there and the input shaft seal and probably the rear main seal on the engine. clean it up right here a little. I have the old tail shaft seals out, and here's a little tip. Looks like Ford gave you little notches here on the side where you could get something to get it started, you know. One on each side, you could tap it and get a little gap going. It's got a flange on it. And then what I use, I got an old wood chisel that goes around and does a pretty good job. It's got the flange on it right here. So I just worked a new one in. That'd be one seal down. The first seal's in. It's a little challenging. You know, I packed some lithium grease in there and around the garter spring too, because all the tapping, you don't want that to pop out. And I probably tried like a half hour just to tap it in with my little hammer just around the edges. You know, you tap one side, the other side pops out. So I needed like a piece of pipe or something to make an installation tool. I didn't have anything. So what I did was I made one out of wood. And it worked great. It went right in. I mean, like 60 seconds, it was done. And if I sacrifice this wood chisel, I could sharpen it someday, but I had a new one, so I was able to shape that a little bit, you know. It's probably lucky that I had a center cut piece of 2x4 so it didn't split, you know. Yeah, so I got my seal installation tool there. I had to label it, I guess. Okay, on to the next seal. The thread bearing comes out easy, just these 2 bolts, 10mm socket, and like it's plastic. But it looks like there's something coming apart on that thing. It works great, but the little rubber seal doesn't look too good and kind of corroded on that cap. So maybe I'll just order one or see if I can get one locally. I hate to put it back together like that. So now I can get to the seal, and I'll worry about the seal for now. I have this piece out, holds the seal. Wasn't too bad to get out. I mean, it's glued in there with some kind of sealer, but I use it. This guy right here, little pry bar up on top, like that, just popped it loose. And you gotta be careful because it's got a shim stack in there, 2 of them. So apparently these are tapered roller bearings. And that's how to get the preload or end clearance, end play correct with the shim stack. I laid them out carefully face down so I can know exactly how they go back in. I just tap the seal out and tap a new one in. One thing you gotta know is that when you take these 2 bottom bolts out, that goes all the way through to the gearbox. So transmission fluids just started pouring out. So I went ahead and drained it. It's new fluid. I put it in there just a few weeks ago, changed it. I'm gonna try to save it, but no use. So now I'll change out that seal. And I'll clean the gasket area there. I have some sealer. And maybe I'll probably put it back. I ordered a new throwout bearing. I don't trust that one. So it's not gonna be here till Wednesday, and today's Sunday, so. And And I got that guy there to replace, but I'm going to do that in the vehicle because I'm going to take that out and make it easier to install the transmission. And there's my engine rear main seal, Velcro seal. That'll be tomorrow's project. It'll be, since I have plenty of time now. So Monday I'll do that. And I also have to wait for the new bushings for the Crossmember. I have to get them out. I have to clean that thing up, get the old bushings out. See what kind of job that's going to be, and then hunt down a bolt. Hopefully the hardware store has some. Even if it's the wrong size, it'd be temporary till I can order one. I want a 9/16 by 4.5. Like a grade 8 probably be good, or it doesn't have to be. It doesn't really hold that much. But now I don't have to worry. The seal's replaced, and I put that piece back in. It's pretty simple. The seal comes out the back, so you have to remove that. There's 6 bolts. And there's no gasket, but they use sealer, so you can see I put a thin coat of sealer, and there's a little bit squeezed out around. And the bolt holes aren't blind, they go all the way through, so I put a good coating of Loctite thread locker and sealer on each one of them. So I drained all the oil out of the transmission, so it should be a lot cleaner job putting it back together. Another thing I discovered was this guy up here. There was always a little oil coming down the side of the transmission. There's 2 ways that could have happened. And here's one of them. Was this seal here was broke loose. So it's so I ordered one of those. I ordered a new throwout bearing because you can see this one looks like it's coming apart right there. It worked fine, but I don't trust it. And plus, inside of here, some of the fingers are like a little bit mangled and missing, and so it's time to replace it. I got a doorman job. I think it's around $50 for it. You can get them a little cheaper, but I wanted to get a little bit better one. So my next job is I actually want to replace the rear seal on the engine. And there it is. I got my clutch alignment tool. Also got a new starter drive for the starter. I'll probably put that on. It's the starter drive, since I've had the truck like 3 months and started it a bunch of times, you know, of course, one time that starter drive or the Bendix didn't engage properly, you know, when they just spin. And so I got the starter out. I think I'll clean it up and replace that starter drive. And I cleaned up my Crossmember. Yesterday it was caked with greasy dirt and stuff, so waiting for the bushings to go in the ends of it. I got the old bushings out yesterday. They're laying over here, just the ends. You know, they were in getting to be in pretty bad shape, but that's it. So I just broke off the ends and then like cut the rubber out of it. Wasn't too bad. And this guy I'm going to leave out when I just stuff a rag in there or something. When I put it back in, and then I'll install this new piece that I ordered when it comes. I'll install it with the transmission in place from inside the vehicle. So the flywheel's off. Very simple, just 6 bolts, impact. And that does seem to be a leaking rear main seal, if I ever saw one. So that, one thing I'm going to do is clean up that area before I take the seal out, because I don't want to be cleaning on it with the seal area open to the engine oil. So let me get some rags and some brake clean or whatever, and clean that mess up, and then I got a sheet metal screw I'm gonna put in there and pull it out. Hey, let me get busy. I got it cleaned up and I got a screw in there. I don't know if I can do this one-handed or not, but I'm gonna try to pop it out with some kind of tool. Yeah, I'll be back when I get it out. The first screw pulled out, but the second screw was the charm, and pulled her right on out. Wasn't too bad. I just got to get the new one in there without damaging anything. Had to lube her up with some lithium and grease, which I have a supply of. And I'll show you one. There's a warning label that came on it. I was going to do it anyway. I mean, I have my blue Loctite right there, but it has a, must be like an installation tool just to keep it in shape. But this here says about the flywheel bolts that's on some engines. They drilled the bolts too deep, and what may be thought to be a rear main seal leak is actually coming through the bolt thread. So be sure to put plenty of blue Loctite on them. So I was going to do that anyways. But I think mine are blind holes. They don't go all the way through. I'm pretty sure. There was my last project, was the radiator mount. So I got a video on that if you want to see. But here's the new one. It's in there. And I also have a video in the right front spring mount. This guy right here, that black thing. I replaced that. I had to do some frame repair, but it's good now. Probably needs front springs. Okay, so now I think I'll just take a break or have a cup of coffee or something and think about that rear seal, because I want to get it right the first time. Okay, thank you. Well, she's in there. Just took a little bit more tapping than I counted on, but it's probably all I'm going to do today. But there's one other thing I see is oil dripping off of my oil pressure sending unit. I think that's oil pressure sending unit. It's in the head. It's got a red cam, so it's going to have oil pressure in the head. I'll look it up. See, it's not leaking at the threads. It doesn't look like it's leaking at the other end. If it's leaking, I don't know. I've always seen oil on this side of the engine, on the side of the block, you know, dripping down. So that's one more thing. It's probably pretty cheap, easy to replace. Okay, that's it for today. I got the Crossmember here I'm working on, and I had to knock those things out of the ends because the hole was way too small in those. It would never. These were no way. This was going to go in there. It's like the same size. So here it is now, and I cleaned up the hole a little bit with some 80 grit sandpaper I have. And it goes in, but it's just a little bit loose. So what I did, you can see the other one, I made a sleeve out of galvanized metal. And now it fits pretty snug. Here's my sleeve for this side. That's right here. I haven't tried it yet, but let me see if I can get it in there. Oh. Yeah, I think this one we might have to trim it a little, but you get the idea. With that in there, my my deal fits pretty snug. Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's pretty snug in there now. So, and what for extra measure, I'm going to put a big gob of JB Weld on both sides of that sleeve and kind of JB welded in there. And then that'll be good enough. You know, the only thing I have is there's an Ace Hardware. And I got, ideally you'd use 9/16 bolts, but they didn't have 9/16 bolts long enough, but they have 1/2 inch. And a 1/2 inch is, yeah, it's a little loose, but it'll get me down the road to where I can get some 9/16 ones, you know what I mean? So it's definitely not going to fall out. I got nylock nuts and everything for it, so I tighten her in there real good, and then when I happen across some 9/16 by 4.5 or 5, and that's what I'll do. So let me JB weld that in there, and then I'll do another video. Yeah, the new clutch disc just arrived. Looks like the right one. Got more springs in the pap than the old one. It says the other side, maybe this side, somewhere. It says made in Korea, gearbox side. But let me see how thick it is. So this one is 365 thousandths, and the old one is 265 thousandths, so it's 100 thousandths thicker. I got my bushings in so that turned out pretty good, I think. That shim made them pretty snug, and plus I packed them with JB Weld on both sides. So it's I think it's in there to stay. And I put the new starter drive in my starter. I got the starter kind of propped up there because I hooked the wires up to it. Easier to do it before you install it. So tomorrow will be the big day, putting the transmission back in. I got the flywheel in and torqued to 60 pounds and foot-pounds, and I put let's see, Loctite on all the bolts that I get instructions recommended. But yeah, tomorrow I just have to install the slave cylinder, throwout bearing, 2 bolts for that, and get the transmission underneath there. I think I have to let it all the way down and take it off the cart. And these things aren't really heavy, you know. I can pick it up pretty easy. I'd say between 80 and 100 pounds is all it weighs. Oh yeah, I got I have a new mount too. What are this thing's for? What is it for? Tailpipe hanger or something? It's not being used, and yeah, it's I'll do that after I after I get it up under the truck and bolted to the engine. And I'll be bleeding the slave cylinder and whatever else I have to do. And that's it for today. I'm gonna go get cleaned up and get something to eat. Okay. I took it off the jack and wrestled it under there and managed to get it back on the jack. It's wasn't too bad. I just it's kind of dark, but after I got it under there, I just lifted the back up like really high and just slid the jack under it, and it just balanced itself. I got the pressure plate and new clutch disc in. A little handy tool for aligning the clutch disc till it slips in and out. No effort, and she's ready to jack up and try to get in place. I kind of take an inventory of my bolts. I seem to have 10, but I think I need 11, so there's gonna be another one around here somewhere. If not, 10 sounds like a pretty good number. Get another one from Tractor Supply or someplace. But yeah, let me start jacking her up and trying to slip her in there. The transmission's in there. 10 o'clock, so it took me about 3 hours to get the pressure plate and transmission wrestled under here and lined up. And I have 2 bolts to go, those 2 on the very top. They're very hard to see. I just got it propped up with a piece of wood now. I'll let it down more, and that's when you can see those bolts up there, and then I'll have to hook up my exhaust, my drive shaft, the items on that side, you know, speedometer and backup light and clutch. But it wasn't too bad. I mean, I wrestled with her until changing the angles of the engine and the transmission and everything, to finally it went in far enough to get a bolt started. But if you ever try to pull one in with the bolts, gotta be very, very careful. You can't tighten the bolts. It's gotta move with very little resistance on the bolts, or that means your pilot shaft is in the hole. Back in the day, you know, I seen people break their bell housing by trying to force it, but yeah, so let me get a few more bolts in her and I'll be back. It's Crossmember time. I got the 2 top bolts in, those ones you need the 3-foot long extension for. And I got my impact to speed up the job of putting in the new transmission mount. So got that in there. And the old one's still good, I guess. It's like new stuff. But there's the old one. This thing is hanging off the right-hand side. Not sure what it's for, but I left it off for now. I think the catalytic converter used to go there. It's got a catalytic converter, but it's like an aftermarket one. It's in a different spot. So now it's a Crossmember, drive shaft, and then all the little stuff. I got some wires I need to tie back to, because the 2 top transmission bolts on this side each have a little tab, you know, for a wire loom to attach to. So little barb thing is gone off of them, so I just use a wire tie. I want the wires tied back up. One I think is to the low oil level switch, and I don't know what the other one's to. I got it finished yesterday, and I'm checking it out. It looks nice and dry under there. No oil dripping. Back here too, it looks good. The one issue I had was snapping in the the hydraulic line for the slave cylinder. And I'll show you what the deal was. See this little guy right here. And let me put it down so you can see better. This little guy right here. You see the short ones are supposed to be like bent in, and your line would plug in this way, and it has a little ridge that when it goes beyond those short ones, that's what snaps it in. But that's the one that came out, that's the one in the new one. I tried for the longest time to plug in my hydraulic line, and it wasn't going in. I mean, it wouldn't stay in. So I got to looking at it, and that thing comes out. I went over and looked at the old one, and you can see where the it's out of there now, but it goes right down in there. And so I took the old one out and put it in the new one, and I was able to get it to snap in. So that was good. And the only other thing is I got to get used to driving it again, because the clutch engages at a different point now with the new throwout bearing. It's real easy to push. I mean, the clutch works really great, but I got to learn to make smooth shifts again, because it engages farther out. You know, I mean, it's got a longer piece of the throat where it's disengaged, and so it's it was a success. So I got it wash her off now. She's dirty. Been sitting in here it took like 8 days, you know, because I had like 3 or 4 days waiting for parts. Yeah, I got my area kind of cleaned up and get rid of some of that. But I had my exhaust pipe had an issue too, where one of the hangers broke off of it, but I was able to weld that back on and get it in a good position. And I never saw that done before. Oh well. Yeah, so that's the end of the story, I guess. It was easy bleeding the hydraulic cylinder, or you know, if you ever get air in the master cylinder for the clutch, then you got a big problem. You got to probably got to take it off, loosen the firewall, and then tilt it a certain way and get the air out. I never got air in the master cylinder yet. I just all I did was just gravity bleed the slave cylinder, and that was it. I mean, it's good to go. Got very little free play, and that clutch goes in like real easy. Oh well, end of that story. On to the next one.